The bear has been poked. It's time to wake up from our slumber
and stand together, united as one. One family, one body, one church.
We will not walk past the vulnerable.
Say nothing, do nothing, and turn a blind eye.
We are citizens of a great nation.
We are good Samaritans to our neighbors.
You are not alone.
We are the largest unified voice in Canada. So we stand united. This is our rally cry. We are Christ to our nation. This is our battle cry. He shall have dominion from sea to sea and from the river unto the ends of the earth. Righteousness will reign. Justice will prevail. We are united.
Hello and welcome to the National Leadership Briefing. My name is Doug Sharpe and I will be your host for today. Well, we have an ambitious schedule today. We're definitely going to keep you no longer than 1 hour, and I want to make sure that every single moment of it is valuable to you. So we're going to get started right away. First, let me tell you what it is that we're going to be covering today. Full on schedule. First of all, for the new citizens that are joining us today, I want to make sure that we spend a little bit of time just bringing you up to speed as to exactly who we are and why we come together. We're also going to have a quick answer period segment, a segment that we provide every single briefing now because we see questions that pop up on a regular basis, and sometimes we need to get those questions answered. So we do a quick answer period segment to kick things off. Then we've got action updates for you for all of the things that we have been exercising our combined influence in, all of the different issues that are going on. We've got Bill C6, Bill C7. Don't worry about it if you don't know what they are yet. I'm going to tell you all about them. Then we've got the Delta Hospice House. I want to update you on that. And then we've also got the CPC Policy Convention, preparing for that. And I want to bring to your attention an opportunity that we've got coming up on the horizon regarding school board trustee elections all across our nation. So that is also going to happen. Plus, we're going to head behind me over to the board there. I'm in the boardroom today, starting off here. We'll end up at the desk, but we're starting out here. I want to introduce you to somebody that you definitely are going to need to know on the road ahead. We are living in a time where there is an increasing amount of persecution of individuals and ideas out there. And there's one individual in particular that you're going to see more and more often on the road ahead, and that person is named Gatekeeper. So Gatekeeper is who I'm going to talk to you about today and introduce you to, and make sure you're very well aware of who that is. And then we're going to look at one of the greatest challenges I believe that we have as Christians, people of faith here in Canada, it's a need to understand a piece of the strategy of those who in the political movements of Canada oppose your worldviews. If you don't understand the strategies of the opposition, then you are going to have a challenge responding and engaging with them. So it's important that we're going to talk about that today. There's one particular strategy I think that we're missing a full understanding on. So we're going to take some time on that. And then I'm going to go back to my desk and we're going to wrap things up because I want to talk to you briefly about the road ahead. Now, this is what I want you to know about today's briefing is we've got an awful lot of new people on the call today. We've got an awful lot of new people that really may not even understand what it is or who we are. I'm going to get to that, but I want you to do it, all of you, every single person on this call, whether you're new or you've been on it for a while. I want you at the end of this 1 hour with me, I want you to take whatever your plan is, whatever your plan of engagement is, and I want you to hold it up against the 1 hour that you spent with me today. I'm willing to put this right out there because this is super important for us to do. Everyone's only got a limited amount of time to spend. Everybody's only got a limited amount of energy they can devote to their plan. But I want you to hold what happens in the next hour up against whatever your plan is. And I want you to make a couple of decisions. First of all, I want you to ask yourself, is what my plan is right now, is it compatible with what Doug is suggesting that we do? Because this 1 hour that you spend with me, I'm proposing you do every single month. Remember, the National Leadership Briefing occurs on the first Friday of every month, always at 1 p.m. Eastern it starts, and always for no longer than 1 hour. And that is a 12-hour commitment of your life per year. I also ask you to pay keen attention to something we do called the midweek touch point, which is a video that I send out on Wednesday of every single week between the national leadership briefings. That's about 7 to 10 minutes long. So if you added up all the midweek touch points and you added up all the national leadership briefings, you are going to spend 18 hours of your life in 1 year with me. And that's what I'm going to ask you to do, is take that 18-hour commitment that I'm asking you to make. And I'm going to say, hold that up against your plan and say, are these two things compatible? Can they exist together in your life? Now, of course, if you hold up the national leadership briefing and the commitment of the midweek touch points and the 18 hours that I'm asking for, and you hold it up and in your other hand, you don't have a plan at all, then I think that's a slam dunk. You need to spend time with me, because what we're doing here for the new people is that we are developing the habit of coming together on these regular intervals for a very short period of time, just to take a long enough moment to just sharpen our swords and drill and train and get better at what we're doing, the practicing that habit of coming together, because on the road ahead, there are going to be opportunities where you and I can combine our voices and speak in a unified way to the issues that are of the greatest importance to us. And when we do come together, what do? We rally around the things that we believe in and set aside all of the other things that divide us. That's why we've got so many different denominational groups represented on the national leadership briefing. That's why we've got Christians and Jews and Sikhs and Muslims. We've got people on this call that have no affiliation with religion at all. But when we come together, we rally around the 4 pillars. Remember that we believe here on the national leadership briefing that parents have the right to raise their children the way they want. We don't believe that governments have any rights at all to raise our kids. That is our responsibility as parents. Do you know how many people across all religions and denominational lines share that same belief, who are unified with us in that belief? Well, that's the first pillar that we rally around. The second thing that we rally around here on the national leadership briefing is our common belief that those we elect to serve us in civil government must respect and defend, when necessary, our right of belief. We do not believe that it is correct for politicians that are elected by us to sit in their seats in the legislatures and the House of Commons while pieces of legislation are passed and while things happen in society that are an infringement on our right of belief and freedom of religion. We expect them to rise in defense of us and those rights. The third thing that we rally around in the national leadership briefing here, the third pillar, is that we believe, and there's an expectation from us, that the laws and policies of civil government provide for the safety and security of the citizens, but especially that they take very, very keen interest in the well-being of the vulnerable. So we expect the very first box on any legislative proposal that is put forward or any policy initiative by government to be able to check that box that it is safe for vulnerable citizens. And as a matter of fact, we look through the lens of that particular pillar whenever we look at any legislative proposal to make sure that it is compliant with that. And then finally, the fourth pillar that we rally around here on the national leadership briefing is that we have an expectation and a belief that it is inappropriate for civil government to heap debt on the backs of our children and future generations. So these are the 4 pillars we rally around. The reason we come together is because we're looking for those opportunities to speak to these issues in the realms of society, culture, politics, and government. And we want your voice added to our voice so that we can all have a greater influence when these conversations take place. Now, this is not the time for the lone wolf out there to be running around doing their own thing. So I'm encouraging you, yes, continue to do whatever it is that you're doing on your own, but seriously consider coming together with us once a month and for those midweek touch points, and invest that time so we can speak in a unified way to the things that are important to us all. So that is the introduction for today. I want to spend no more time on that because we got to get right into the answer period segment, and I will be right with you in a couple of seconds after this quick video and get that answer period segment started. Bye for now. Okay, welcome back. Let's get started with the answer period segment in just a second, but I wanted to add one thing that I had neglected to mention in the introduction, and that is if you are watching this national leadership briefing on any of our other platforms, like on the website, or if you're looking at our YouTube channel, or if you're seeing this on Facebook, remember you are not getting the post briefing notes. You're just seeing the video of the national leadership briefing. Now, if you want to receive post briefing notes, what those are that's all of the references and resources that we refer to on the briefing today. They come in an email after. Now, if you're watching this on one of the other platforms, though, you're not registered for the National Leadership Briefing. So you've got to go to nlbcanada.ca. Again, that's N as in National Leadership, L, Briefing, B, nlbcanada.ca, and register your name so that you receive not only all of the post-briefing notes for each of the briefings, but you'll also receive the links to future briefings, and the midweek touch point will be delivered directly to your inbox on a weekly basis as well. So don't forget to do that. Okay, let's get to the question, because this is one that I've thought about whether I was even going to respond to this, but it's been asked so often. The questions are related to the US presidential election and the politics of the United States. And what people are noticing is they're noticing here on the National Leadership Briefing that we do not talk about it at all. We have you've never heard it come out of my mouth at all, anybody who's been on the briefing before, and people have been asking what it is that I think about on the National Leadership Briefing. People have been also noticing that I do comment on the US presidential election and on US political issues on my Facebook page and some of our other platforms. So why is it, this is the question, why is it that you don't talk about US issues on the National Leadership Briefing? Okay, first of all, the answer to that, this answer period segment, is there's just such a limited amount of time, and we're discovering that there are so many opportunities in front of us where we can speak in a unified way and get us so much done here in Canada that we just haven't had time to comment on any of that. Second thing is that this is a dedicated to having influence in society, culture, politics, and government. Our time here, that's what it's for here in Canada. Those are the spheres in Canada that we want to have influence in. Now, why is it that I comment on it, though, on my Facebook page? Because what we've got is, and then you guys can subscribe if you'd like, and I'd be happy to serve you there as well. But we've got a Facebook page. I have a personal Facebook page under my own name. I have a group page under Canada Family Action. I have a page of it on its own for Canada Family Action, and we have a National Leadership Briefing page that we've just started. So we have all of those other. We also have a YouTube channel you can subscribe to as well. But the reality is if you want to round out your understanding about what I feel are for instance, the best sources. One of the things that I've talked about before is I've made it clear that there are good sources of information for U.S. presidential news and the election and what's going on down there, and as far as politics go. And then there is just absolutely corrupted, heavily biased, and horrible sources of information down there. So if you want to know sort of where I'm spending my time, that's what you might want to do. But I encourage everybody, do not take your eye off the ball here in Canada, because as I say, we have so many opportunities in front of us here now where we can have influence, and we are scoring so many touchdowns right now that it's kind of hard to change the pitch, like to look at another playing field, if you know what I mean. So stay focused on the road ahead here in Canada. But if you want to sign up for any of those other, feel free. I'm happy to host you there on those pages as well. Okay, I hope that helps. Let's keep it moving and end this answer period segment and move on to the next thing. Bye for now. Okay, we're back, and we are moving into the action update segment. Just for those of you who are new on the call, I just want to say again, we don't normally move as quickly as I am about to move through the action update section. However, today we must, because there are so many irons we have in the fire that I want to cover them all. But if you feel like you're going to be overwhelmed and you're just not going to be able to keep up, don't worry about it. What we suggest you do, and everyone do, is to refer to the post-briefing notes today, because I'm going to be providing you a lot of resources on each one of these items. So the first item up is Bill C6, the conversion therapy bill that has left what we call the committee stage in the House of Commons, and it's moving towards third reading. So there's the first post-briefing note resource that I'm going to provide for you today. Is I did a video that explained before about why this parliamentary process for legislation is so important for us to understand, and the significance of that third reading vote. It is the final vote in the House of Commons before it goes off to the Senate. And I explain in that video why it's so important for us to pay attention to that moment in time, even above all of the other moments in time. Okay, it's the last time that we can get in touch with our members of parliament before they cast their vote and let them know our view on the bill, so encouraging them to vote the right way. And of course, on Bill C6, as you are well aware if you've been tracking along with us, this is a seriously flawed piece of legislation that is completely contrary to the way we view the world, and disrespects parental rights to raise their children. It disrespects right of belief and freedom of religion in the charter. And we are definitely concerned about the fact that it might even do a considerable amount of harm for those in the LGBTQ community, because it limits people's ability to reach out and help them. So this is a challenge for us, and I want you to take the time to get in touch with your member of parliament. Now, the second thing I'm going to include for you in the post-briefing notes today is, for those of you who aren't entirely familiar with this bill, it is a really important one to understand. So I'm going to include a 1-hour briefing that we did working with Free to Care, this organization called Free to Care, and where we brought on lawyers and we brought on pastors and we brought in all sorts of people to give their perspectives on Bill C6. So in 1 hour, you can go from knowing nothing to knowing lots, which will then empower you and enable you to comfortably and confidently get in touch with your member of parliament and express your concerns. So watch that 1-hour video that I'm going to include in the post-briefing notes below as well. Okay, so that's Bill C6 and the all-important third reading vote. So keep an eye on that. Bill C7, the euthanasia bill. Remember this one. For those of you who are wondering if the slope could get any slipperier when they first passed legalized euthanasia back in 2016, but the reality is it's extremely slippery, and the Liberals are proving that now, because they have a bill now in the Senate. It's being considered in the Senate by senators. It's already gone through the House of Commons, the first, second, and third reading votes, and now it's in the hands of the Senate. And this bill is really a challenge and concern for people who are vulnerable in our communities. It places people at great risk because it does things like it removes the 10-day waiting period. So now they're proposing that you could actually walk into a doctor's office and secure same-day death in euthanasia. That's not a good thing. It removes, among other things, it also removes the requirement for independent witnesses to be present. And so that's another concern as well. So this is a seriously flawed piece of legislation, legislative proposal. It's in the hands of the Senate, and you and I need to actually get in touch with the list of senators that I'm going to be including in the post-briefing notes today to let them know that you are concerned that the bill does not adequately protect vulnerable people that live in your communities. Remember, whenever we speak to issues like legislative proposals, we speak to them through the lens of the 4 pillars. So use the language of the 4 pillars. If you're talking about the conversion therapy bill, you're talking about the right of parents to raise their children the way they want. And you're talking about the requirement for those that are elected to stand in defense of right of belief and freedom of religion. So this is the kind of language you use when you communicate with them. That way they know there's a bunch of us out there that are concerned. So that's Bill C7, encouraging you to look in the post-briefing notes today, pull the email addresses of those senators on the list, and send them off a note saying you are concerned for the vulnerable people in your community. Okay, the third one that I want to bring up is that, as you may recall, Delta Hospice House, it's a hospice house in British Columbia, seriously challenged by the provincial government in BC by their resistance and reluctance and refusal to actually allow euthanasia in their facility. And it was really important. If you didn't do this, please, it's still a good idea to do this. We encouraged everyone across Canada. You don't have to be in British Columbia. You can be anywhere in Canada. You can be a husband and a wife. It could be husband, wife, and elder or older children. But what we asked you to do was join the Delta Hospice Society. And by joining the society, you would be put on a mailing list where they could then keep in touch with you and keep you apprised of the challenge that they're having right now with the provincial government in British Columbia, who has now pretty much almost successfully shut them down and serve the, so, but the fight continues. And we have an opportunity to be on that mailing list and to serve as members of the society. So you can actually join the society. It's like $10 or $15. I'm sorry, just off the top of my head, it's been a while since I joined. But everyone needs to go to the link that I'm going to provide you in the post briefing notes. If you're not already a member of that society, then you're definitely going to want to do that. If you have any challenges and money is the only thing holding you back from joining the society, then there are people who are willing to step up in our organization, just so you know, to cover the expenses of your registration and the cost of you signing up. So get in touch with me if that's the only reason why you're not a member of Delta Hospice House right now, or Delta Hospice Society right now, then you've got to get in touch with me, because we want your voice to be added to ours, and we want to speak in a unified way against a palliative care facility being forced to perform euthanasia deaths inside that facility. Okay, so that's Delta Hospice House. All right, and then finally, before we move up to the board here, what I'm going to suggest you do here is we've been keeping you up to date on the Conservative Party of Canada Policy Convention that's coming up in March. And we've walked you through the process of just, okay, why are we doing this? First of all, we're doing this because we want to have a voice in this policy process. And many of you have put your name forward for delegates, and you're going to find out very soon in an election whether you in fact are going to be elected as delegates. All I want to say to you now here today is I'm putting a link below to a website called Ideas Lab. And Ideas Lab, if you'll recall, it was a website that the Conservative Party of Canada sent you a link to a while ago. And this is where all of the policy proposals are now being populated into. You're going to start seeing all of these different ideas. What I'm going to suggest to those of you who had the interest in participating in this process, go to the link below, go to this Ideas Lab website now, and now is the time. You want to make sure that you're starting to familiarize yourself with some of the policies that are in there. And then we're going to be talking about those on the immediate road ahead. And we're going to be talking about which ones are ones we want to advance together and which ones we sort of want to pay a little less attention to. So this is my encouragement to you, those people who are participating in this process. Another thing I'm going to tell you about that CPC Policy Convention update is that we are working with citizen action organizations across the nation. And that one of the reasons why we are doing that is because we believe that obviously working in a unified way here on the National Leadership Briefing is a great idea. Why wouldn't we work with others outside of our organization? So we are doing that, and we are going to be working with one organization in particular called Right Now. And they are ones that are going to help us execute a strategy moving closer to convention and helping you prepare for election. So if you get an email from somebody with the organization, it starts right now or right now, you are definitely talking to the right person. And I just want to let you know that you should receive that as somebody who is a trusted helper on the road ahead. So keep an eye out on your inbox for anything that you might have from them. Okay, so that is all I wanted to update with. Obviously, again, we don't usually just fly through action updates like that. We usually provide a lot more background detail, but in the post briefing notes today, you are going to find a treasure trove of backgrounder information and information that you're going to find useful in raising your level of understanding on these issues and bringing confidence to you so that you can act. That's what it's all about. Is the big thing that holds people back is they don't have enough information to feel confident to take action. Well, for example, on that Bill C6 conversion therapy bill, you watch that 1 hour video and you are going to have more information than 99.9% of Canadians out there on the issue of conversion therapy and the bill that's why it's so flawed as it moves through the House of Commons. Okay, so take care of that and take a look at that after the briefing today. And then what I'll do is I want you to watch this video here. It'll give me time to get set up at the board behind me, and we'll talk a little bit more about the school board trustee elections. We're going to talk about that briefly, but then I want to move right into introducing you to someone, as I said, you're going to need to know, and that is Gatekeeper. Gatekeeper. Remember that. We'll talk to you in a minute. Thanks so much. Okay, it's good to be back on the board with you. For those of you who are new, this is In the Boardroom. We do a lot of teaching and training on the National Leadership Briefing. We also provide additional information on the midweek touch points. However, what you're seeing behind me are different models and templates that we use. We call them teaching templates that you can then also share with your friends and in your personal networks. Now, that's what we're going to talk about first is that I wanted to first talk about the local government and local elections that are happening with regard to school board trustees. So school boards locally, we're going to be seeing always in every province across the nation, you're going to be seeing school board trustee elections occur. And we can't just wait until they come upon us and then start scrambling around and getting ready to work them. What we need to do in advance of that, knowing that they are regularly scheduled and they're going to be happening in our individual communities, we need to start planning for them. Now, one of the things that I'm going to be doing on the next National Leadership Briefing, that is the March National Leadership Briefing, is I'm going to be bringing on a school board trustee to talk about this issue in more detail. But in the meantime, I want to give you some homework in your own local areas, things that you can do to prepare to have that conversation. The first thing you can do is look online in your local community and in your province and find out when they are. When are the next school board elections, school board trustee elections coming up? This is a very key position that these people, they do have a great deal of influence, and we definitely want to have a say in who it is that is elected in those elections. So we're going to do that and on the next National Leadership Briefing. But in the meantime, you get your eyeballs on the information locally, because that is what's important to you. You're going to need to know that moving forward. All right. You're also going to want to start putting some thought into whether or not you yourself are a candidate or a potential candidate to run as a school board trustee, because this is one of the things that we're going to be teaching people on the immediate road ahead, is how to participate in that process as a school board trustee. And maybe you're the person who is supposed to be in that position, and we want to make sure that you give that full consideration. Now, if it isn't you, and you're certain it's not you, then we want you to start working on identifying somebody who you think it might be. So make sure and get them on the National Leadership Briefing so that we can work with them. Okay. So that's all I want to leave with you for now on the school board elections, school board trustee elections issue for now. And then we're going to move into the next phase of the action, or of the boardroom segment I want to do today. And that is, we're going to be talking about Gatekeeper, this person, the gatekeeper that you definitely need to know about moving forward in this world. But first, Taliyah Foundation of Understanding, I want to just make sure that we're all clear on a couple of things. One is, I want you to be sure that we're clear. If you haven't seen this template before, then you can go to the website, and this is a sphere of authority template that we have done some training on. I'm not going to go into full detail on this, but I want you to understand what it is that you're looking at here so that we can talk and reference it when we talk about Gatekeeper in this next few minutes. Okay, first of all of these different circles here with the different names, these are all governments. This is our society. This is our life that is separated into all of these different governments. Now, each of these governments in our society are different jurisdictions that have different responsibilities and different authorities that are associated with them. So for example, self-government, that's you yourself as an individual in society. You have the ability and the authority to operate within this jurisdiction to make decisions about how you live your own life. You get to decide what time you get up in the morning, what time you go to bed at night, what books you read, what movies you watch, what you eat and drink. All of these things you get to decide as an individual. You also get to make decisions individually as a citizen. You get citizen things that you can do, like you can vote in elections or what have you. But all of these things that you can do, these rights and privileges exist within your jurisdiction of authority and your area of responsibility. Family government, same thing. Mom and dad, they have the right to raise their kids the way they want. They have the right to pick what school they go to, where they're going to live, whether they get up in the morning and pray or whether they go to bed at night and watch TV at night together as a family. Whatever it is, this is mom and dad. They get to decide what happens in that family. Church government and, of course, civil government. Now, these are the other forms of government in our society. Now, there's also another government called government of marketplace, the marketplace government, but we haven't got it on this template. This is just a teaching template to introduce you to spheres of authority. Now, this civil government here in our training, we recognize that it is unique among all of the other forms of government, and it's important for us to realize that when we're moving forward into this conversation about Gatekeeper, because civil government with these unique powers has the ability to legislate and to tax, and they can actually take these powers and lord them over the other governments. It's actually what we do is we actually transfer authority as individuals through what's called an electoral process, and we transfer our citizen authority en masse to government to act on our behalf to better our society. But sometimes they take that power to legislate and tax that we give them, and they actually unfairly use that power and authority over the church, the family, and the individual. So this is the relationship that we have, that all of these governments are designed to operate and to exist up to the jurisdictional limit of their authorities. But sometimes civil government will overstep into the other spheres of authority. Now, let me give you an example of where it's okay to overstep is, let's say a family joins a church and then grants the pastor and the leadership of that church permission to speak into the life of their family. Okay, that is a permission that is given for church to expand its sphere of authority to cross over the family. Or maybe the individual might become a member of a family. An individual could become a mother or a father, and then all of a sudden you've got that crossover where your interests and your responsibilities and your authorities are merged together. Well, civil government is very clearly laid out in the Constitution of our country what the limits of authority are and the jurisdiction of civil government is when it comes to the interaction with the church, the family, and the individual, and the marketplace. But sometimes, unfortunately, like I say, they bloat and grow and mutate to operating beyond the jurisdictional limit of their authority. Now, why is it that I'm pointing that out ahead of telling you about Gatekeeper? Okay, Gatekeeper is someone that you are going to be running into on the road ahead. As a matter of fact, we're running into them in society all the time. Who is Gatekeeper? Let me give you an example. Let's say you go to the circus, and you know the fairgrounds that are up and down the I guess not the circus, sorry, the like the peony or the midway, and you go up and down and you see all these different rides, the Ferris wheel and the zipper and the little dishes that spin around. Well, what you've got as you step up to each one of those individual rides is there is usually an individual that is there at the gate of the entrance of the ride, and that individual has been granted authority to manage what happens within the confines of that fenced area with respect to that ride. And he has been given, or she has been given, rules to go with it that they're expected to enforce and adhere to. And like they may give you one of those little signs, you know, with the lines on it that says if you're not as tall as this line here, you can't go on the ride. So they'd be standing at the gate of this ride, and they would say, these are the rules. I'm here to enforce them. I've been given authority to do so by the person who owns this ride, and I'm here to make sure that you adhere to all of these rules. Okay, so the jurisdiction that that person has is defined. The authority that that individual has is defined. But what happens if all of a sudden the person at the gate of the ride all of a sudden starts saying things like, well, you know what? I don't like your look. As a matter of fact, maybe they're racist. They might say, you know what? I don't like your color. You know, I don't like your accent. Maybe you have an accent. You're from another country. I don't like that. Well, that is not authority that has been granted to that individual. That person is overstepping their authority, and they are holding on to the gate. They are at the gate denying you something that is unreasonable and should not be imposed on you. Okay, that's reality. Gatekeepers, sometimes they actually overstep the limits of their authority. Now, we're very fortunate here in Canada because the limit of authority in civil government is actually very clearly laid out, like I say, in our Constitution and in our Charter of Rights and Freedoms. So when our government oversteps their boundaries, then we can easily spot it out. Well, what happens if in civil government, in the civil government and the processes of politics that actually forms that government, what happens if all of a sudden individuals step forward and start acting unreasonably about allowing you to participate in the processes of government or politics? What do we do when we run into these gatekeepers that are overstepping their boundaries? Well, I got to tell you, one thing that we don't do is we don't act in a way, and this is just to hold this up here, we don't act in a way that is contrary to our beliefs. And this is a good example of one of our beliefs illustrated in Scripture. It says, whatever happens, conduct yourselves in a manner worthy of the gospel of Christ. So just when that says whatever happens, now this is Paul's advice to the church at Philippi, and he wanted to be clear. Just because it's something that is uncomfortable for you and you don't think that it is appropriate the way they're acting, it doesn't give us the right to act in a manner that is contrary to the conduct that's outlined in Scripture. Another thing is, if we want to go a little bit further in Paul's advice in the church, to the church at Philippi, he says, let your gentleness be evident to all. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't get a little feisty, because I think every once in a while we do feel like it's time to kick over a table or two, but let's just remember that our deferring to the position we defer to is that we want to approach this with gentleness. Now, why am I telling you all of this? Because I suspect that as we go further on into our lives here in Canada as people of faith, we're going to be running into things like, well, let me give you an example of some things that are going on right now. Publishers right now are en masse denying people the right to actually publish books. Now, I think we can all agree that book burning is a bad idea, like gathering up books and burning them like they did in Nazi Germany and in Cuba, that this is a bad thing. But it's even worse if they won't even let you publish them in the first place, right? So now publishers are lining up and they are limiting our rights to participate. Now, that's a gatekeeper, but it's a private company, so, okay, so we got to sort of weigh it all out. So how do we negotiate that and still have access to publishing? We just seen a great example of gatekeeping here on the social media platform called Twitter. We've just had Jack Dorsey, he is the head of Twitter, deny access to Twitter of many politicians in the United States and anyone who would express a view that is contrary. So he is in fact the gatekeeper of his social media platform. Now, again, what do we do? How do we respond? Well, we know that we let our gentleness be evident to all, and we don't act in a manner that is contrary to and contradictory to the gospel of Christ. But what we can do is we can begin to engage in processes that can effectively deal with gatekeepers. And the one that I'm going to use as an example moving forward here in Canada is that there's a good possibility that moving forward, there's going to be an attempt to gatekeep us from participating in the political processes of our nation. And we need to, as people of faith, again, without compromising the things that we believe, we need to engage and face that challenge head on, and we need to do it together. This is my recommendation is that I have been saying right from the beginning on the National Leadership Briefing that when we come together and speak to these issues and confront these challenges together, we're going to be more effective. Well, this is what I'm going to suggest we do. Instead of challenging the gatekeeper head on and getting into a battle with them, what we do is we just encourage the level playing field, the leveling of the playing field, and keep moving forward together. So together, so if we hit any resistance on the road ahead and we run into this gatekeeper person who's going to limit our ability to participate in the processes, the democratic processes of our nation, we're going to be standing there as a group of people. Okay. And this is really important for you to know, but this diagram here is going to show you how we're going to do that. Okay. How do we gather ourselves together as a group of people ready to confront gatekeeper? Well, first of all, we take a look at this person right here, which starts with you. You make a personal commitment that you are going to not be surprised when you run into gatekeeper on the road ahead. You're going to make a personal commitment that you are going to engage and not turn and run or turtle or whatever you want to call it, but we are going to face the challenge. Okay. Now, the reason that arrow points upward here is because my encouragement has always been that as we do that, that you yourself have to identify in your life who it is that you've given permission to speak into your life, and make sure you're checking with them about how you're doing. Like, how are you aligned with the right ideas, and are you doing the right thing? That's your pastor, coaches, or mentors, or whoever it is that you've given that permission to. But make sure that as you confront gatekeeper, that you are in relationship with someone who is going to counsel you in a way and kind of keep an eye on your actions and kind of keep us all working together, right? Okay, the second thing is why the arrow is pointing that way to your authorities is because you need to be confident and aware of what it is your authorities actually are. And we've talked about this before on the National Leadership Briefing, because your authorities are really easy to list. First of all, you need to be real clear and confident in your authorities as a citizen of Canada. Because if we're going to assert these authorities to confront and engage gatekeeper, you need to know exactly what it is your authorities are. Citizen authority is one you possess. Constitution, the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, you need to know that. The second thing is you have constituent authority. That's an authority that is linked to your postal code and the region where you live. That constituent authority you have is the authority that you can assert when you're engaging with local elected officials. You live in this electoral district, and this is your member of parliament, and you can engage with your member of parliament. So building relationships with your member of parliament, you might remember, is what we encourage. There's a reason for that. Where there's a reason is because you have constituent authority that we're going to exercise as we need to. You also, again, have the third authority that you have, which is really the only authority that you can purchase, is you have the optional political party authority. So as we engage gatekeeper, if we can have more authority and assert ourselves with more authority by purchasing a political party membership, we're going to do it. It's only $15. Like, why wouldn't we? So that's the third one. And then the fourth one is kingdom authority. Now, when you look in your Bible, I'll tell you, all of your authorities related to kingdom are in there. And if you're in relationship with a pastor or church leader that's going to help you navigate and understand those authorities, that's the best way to learn about that, is in relationship with a mentor, coach, pastor, whatever you want to call it. So that's where we start, is we start with getting you ready to face gatekeeper. The second thing we do is we encourage you as an individual to start identifying what's called your personal network. Now, the reason why that is so valuable is because these people are people that are in your immediate orbit, that share your views and values and are all around you. And you may not take any of your time right now in building those relationships and identifying those people. But I'm telling you right now that when you run into Gatekeeper, you're going to want to have a group of people around you locally in your personal network that you can work together with. Now, I'm not talking, it's not the gang. This isn't the boys in the hood. This isn't you like starting a local thug gang. We're talking about just people that share your views and values. Maybe they're people in your church. Maybe they're people that are in your neighborhood that agree with you that parents should have the right to raise their kids the way they want, whatever it is. But you got to start identifying those people and start walking together, serving them and helping them along and working together with them locally. So that's the personal network. We also encourage you to make sure you're in support of supporting and participating in what's called your citizen action group ministry at your local church. Now, we've talked, there's some resources that we've put out, videos on encouraging pastors to allow the citizens in the church to help support the pastor with a citizen action group. But this citizen action group is going to be key on the road ahead. Now, some people just thought that when we launched citizen action groups before, that it's just a nice thing to have. I'm telling you, when you run into Gatekeeper and you start seeing these things denied you unfairly and engaging, whether it's engaging in politics or it's just general life, when you start seeing these things being restricted, you're going to wish you were a part of a citizen action group, an active one and an operating one at a local church. That is what you need to participate in and engage in with locally as well. And then the final thing is I just want to be real clear on this, is that we're here to bring it all together and help and assist and serve you in building these relationships with the people and defending against Gatekeeper. Okay, so plug everybody that you know into the National Leadership Briefing, because the more of us that there are, the greater our influence is and the greater force we can provide when we come up against these gatekeepers out there. Now, here's the good news. I don't want to just say, hey, this is all going real bad and we're going to need to stick together because it's going to be tough times. No, I'm actually here to also tell you the good news. The good news is that you yourself, you are also a gatekeeper, and you are also given a jurisdiction and authority and responsibilities within your own life. So when civil government reaches and oversteps into your life, you are the gatekeeper that stands up and says, you know what? I have jurisdictional authority here, and I am standing here and facing civil government, and I'm saying I am the gatekeeper of my individual right of belief. I am the gatekeeper of my right as a mom and a dad to raise my children the way I want. I am a gatekeeper in my church that says that we have rights to gather, if that is the right that you want to assert. But if you're not in relationship with the National Leadership Briefing, it's going to be a little tougher. If you don't have a citizen action group ministry that you're working with and supporting in your local church, if you haven't been developing a personal network and you're not in relationship with a pastor and you don't know about your authorities, it's going to be an awful lot tougher for you as a gatekeeper to assert authorities in your jurisdictional territory that you may not even know what they are. You may not even understand them. So that's what we're here to help with right here on the National Leadership Briefing. So if you've ever wondered, wait a second, Doug, this doesn't make any sense. I hope it's kind of all coming together now as to why it is that we come together, that we develop these habits and these relationships so that we can work together when it comes time to assert our own authority as gatekeepers in our jurisdictions. Okay. Anyway, I hope that's helpful. It's something we're going to see a lot more. You may go, Doug, I don't see it out there, what you're talking about, but you just wait. It's coming our way. If you haven't felt the sting of a door getting slammed in front of you yet, it's coming your way. And I think it's best that we prepare. Okay, so let's go back to the desk. I want to wrap up there, and I want to thank you so much for your attention to this, and check the videos below because there's more in-depth training on all of this, and I'll put it in the post-briefing notes as well. But in the meantime, let's head back to the desk, watch this video, and we'll talk to you, and we'll wrap up on the desk. Bye for now. These are the things that we believe in. First, that parents have the right to raise their children the way they want. Second, that those we elect to serve us in civil government must respect and defend our right of belief and freedom of religion. Number 3, that the laws and policies of civil government must provide for the safety and security of the citizens, especially the vulnerable among us. And number 4, that it is inappropriate to heap debt upon the backs of our children and future generations. They came from you. They're your pillars. They're the things that you believe. Okay, just one more thing on the agenda today, and then we're going to be bringing it on home and making sure you are out of here before the hour is up. Now, to begin, I just wanted to say that I've said this a couple of times before. I get pretty excited in the boardroom. I mean, I really do. I get pretty excited in the boardroom, but nothing makes me more excited than to see the number of things that we've got on the go right now here at the National Leadership Briefing, the number of conversations that we're engaged in with you, the number of phone calls we're getting to the office, the number of emails that I get all the time of people saying, I'm engaged, this is exciting, and they're excited with me. So I just want to thank you for keeping in touch and giving me the encouragement that you're out there and you're all moving forward. Now, sometimes I have to say, I also get calls and emails from people who are discouraged. So I just want to tell you right now, because where I'm sitting here, I am in a central focal point, I guess, where I can kind of see all of the good things that are going on out there, along with the mix of the bad things that are going on out there. And I tell you, there's an awful lot of good balancing out the bad. If you're not from your perspective or from your vantage point seeing any of the good, I just want to tell you, there's a ton of it out there. Okay, now before we do the wrap up and bring it on home, I told you that I wanted to talk to you about a tactic and a strategy of those that do not share our worldview in the political realm. They have used, obviously, lots of different tactics, lots of strategies over the years. Some of them are really effective, some are not so, but one that is very effective that they're using that I wanted to just draw your attention to so that you could see it. I mean, once we actually see it for the first time, we're going to see it all the time. So I just want to draw it to your attention. Now, you may already know this, but it maybe just say this is for the new guy, or maybe you can pass it on to somebody who maybe doesn't know. But one thing I want to tell you is that everything that you see play out in the political realm, in the House of Commons, in the way of legislation or any kind of a policy position that the government takes, you can be assured in advance of that being rolled out that and I'm referring specifically to our current government at the federal level and any leftist governments at the provincial level. I'm telling you, you are going to be absolutely amazed that you'll be able to see this in the future. But every single policy position and legislative proposal, like for instance, Bill C6, as they roll it out in the House of Commons, or the euthanasia legislation, as they rolled it out in the House of Commons before, that had already been identified and sold to you through the mainstream media months leading up to that and ongoingly from that point on. So the mainstream media is definitely part of the political machine. Now, you might go, Doug, maybe I kind of knew that all the time, but I want you to start looking for the evidence of it as you are engaging in any kind of mainstream media. Now, I've told you before that I think it's real important that if you have a habit of watching daily the evening news or mainstream media news, or you're picking up the newspaper daily, my encouragement is to cut that out. Stop that habit. That's a bad habit. You are being inundated with propaganda, and very, very well crafted propaganda that is designed to shift your perspective on things. And if you've got young kids or younger teen kids, especially in the house, that are sitting on the couch watching it with you, I'm telling you, their minds are just being programmed. And if you take a look at the best way to spot this programming too, is if you take a look at the lower third of the screen on the evening news, on any news channel, if they are speaking to you like I'm speaking to you now, and on the bottom of the screen right here, you actually see this bar that has a written word out, and it's the typed word. That is the message that is being burned into their brain, and that they want you to take home with you. They want you to buy in to whatever they're selling. And because it's leading somewhere, it's taking you from where you're at now in the way you see things, and it's leading you somewhere. At the end of that road it's leading you, just might be a legislative proposal or a policy position of the federal or provincial governments. So just so you know, you are on, it's like being on a bad timeshare presentation where you go in the beginning of the sales track and you go all the way through the sales track and then you end up owning a timeshare. Okay. So be careful about that when you're sitting down watching any kind of mainstream media, especially if the kids are around. Okay. Super important. So look for that, spot it, identify it, and extricate yourself from the mainstream media, especially news programming for sure. Okay, definitely want to move on because we're on the home stretch now, and I want to talk to you about the road ahead. Finally, so take just a few minutes here, and then we're out. So on the road ahead, I wanted to assure everyone that's on the national leadership briefing here that we are under no illusion here that there is going to be some turbulence on the road ahead for us, people of faith, Christian conservatives, especially in Canada. And why I say Christian conservatives is because the conservative base, and I'm talking about the right-wing conservative base, not necessarily the Conservative Party of Canada, but the right-wing conservative base on the political spectrum is where Christians are positioned. They are primarily in that right side of the spectrum. So you are going to see a political assault that manifests in all sorts of different areas in different ways of Christian conservatives here in Canada. And so we're under no illusion that we believe that's going to happen. And we're all about preparing for it. You saw that in the boardroom segment when we're talking about Gatekeeper. But what I wanted you to know is that we have an opportunity here on the National Leadership Briefing to raise up an army of leaders. We have an opportunity to raise you and all your friends up so when the turbulence starts, we're the ones on the plane that aren't freaked out. Okay. We're the ones on the plane that they're looking at and kind of going, wait a second, if Bob's not upset or concerned or freaked out, then maybe it's okay. Maybe I don't need to be freaked out either. And then you will be more effective in leading them through it. And that's what's important is obviously we want to gather as many people on the National Leadership Briefing as we possibly can to have the greatest amount of influence in these four realms of society, culture, politics, and government. But we also want to drill and train and become ready for the turbulence. Now, so grab as many people as you can and get them on the National Leadership Briefing is my encouragement, because those are all of your allies and friends that are going to be right beside you when the turbulence starts. But in those days, when it starts and you've got all the people around you that really haven't been doing much to prepare for it at all, we're going to need you to be as trained as possible. So this is why I just want you to know that I'm so honored and wonderfully amazed and excited about the opportunity to spend all this time with you, is because I really do believe that we're preparing ourselves for a moment in time in the future where all of this preparation is going to be very, very useful. So please stick with me. I'm looking forward to it. I'm not going to beg you, but I'm going to tell you, I'm going to really hope for you to stay in relationship with me and the National Leadership Briefing and allow me to continue to work with you so we can raise the level of understanding, so we can raise the level of awareness on the things that we believe in, so we can raise the profile of the four pillars in society, culture, politics, and government, and we can actually do a better job caring for the vulnerable people in our communities. So I hope that was a great National Leadership Briefing for you. It's always exciting for me. I'm the wrong person to ask. If people ask me if it was a good briefing, I go, oh, it was fantastic, man. I was so fired up. But I hope it was good for you too. And I'm looking forward to seeing you on the next midweek touch point and staying on this road with you. In the meantime, God bless you. God bless your family. And may God continue to bless this great nation of Canada. Bye for now.